Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our another webinar of January. How are you all doing? So, coaches, we've got our speaker Dumi Magadlela today. So, Dumi, I'll probably start with your introduction and then hand it over to you to round off your introduction. So, so everyone joining today, please welcome with me Dumi. Dumi is an international executive and leadership coach and trainer of coaches based in Johannesburg, South Africa. He currently works with Pan African Capacity Building Program. This is a skill developed agency at the Development Bank of South Africa, providing professional skills development across Africa. Dumi designs and delivers leadership skills development and employee effectiveness workshops for DBSA, which is Development Bank of Southern Africa, and stakeholders for their clients and stakeholders. He has been recently appointed as a trustee on the board of International Coach Federation's ICF Foundation. The ICF is a leading professional body of coaches globally. The foundation works with UN agencies such as UNICEF and promotes the use of coaching towards the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals, especially SDG number 4 on education. Dumi is currently the deputy chairperson of the Regional Leadership Center for South Africa at the University of South Africa, School of Business and Leadership. For the bank, Obama initiated Young African Leaders Initiative and the Mandela Washington Fellowship as well. Dumi coaches in some of the leading businesses within South Africa and across the African continent. He's part of senior faculty at one of the leading coach training academies in Africa, the Coaching Center. Uh, Dumi has also co-authored and published a children's book on Ubuntu principles and human coexistence in 2007. He's passionate about human development and authentic connection. Dumi, what a rich background you bring for our audience today. What else would you like to share with our audience today? Uh, so would you like to round off your interview and then take it forward from here?
Thank you, Dr. Sayed. And thank you, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are in the world. It is an absolute pleasure for me to be here. Just to say that it's great to see so many familiar faces, a lot of fellow coaches from around the world that I'm seeing here. Hi, Veronica, I see you there. Alan, Alice, so many of you, thank you. And Dr. Sayed and the team at TA, thank you for having me today to share some of my passion for coaching, team coaching, Ubuntu coaching, just human connection in general with our wonderful fellow coaches and fellow humans on this call today. So thank you very much for being here, everyone. This is not going to be a lecture, a presentation like that from someone who knows something. I'm going to put it more as a discussion, as a teaser, and you're free to come in anytime. From Dr. Sayed and the team will, if they see someone raising your hand or wanting to say something, feel free to come in anytime. And I'm going to just share some of those thoughts that are built up to what Ubuntu coaching is. And as you see, the topic is one thing. What I share builds on that, is part of that and a little more, and maybe out of line with the gist of the topic as it was captured. But be sure that we'll cover that. So having said that, and in appreciation of your audience, you being my listeners while I'm sharing this, I want to start by saying Sanibonani, which is Zulu or isiZulu. isiZulu is most commonly spoken language in Southern Africa. almost like Kiswahili is the most common language spoken in Africa. Well, French maybe now is, but when I say sawubona, that's one person. I'm saying I see you in isiZulu. That's how I greet when I say I see you, sawubona. And so I'm saying to you in plural, sanibonani means I see you. And when I see you, I'm acknowledging your greatness and the greatness in you as I encounter you. And if you take anything from this session today together here, take that we need to see each other as we are, not as someone has described or packaged and say you're this or that, but as we are and as we present ourselves, as we show up. This is why I believe coaching is a sacred profession, because it helps us see people as they are, fellow humans as they show up, as they present themselves to us and to the world. And that's the beginning. So that's where I want to start. I'm going to share some slides now, but Dr. Syed said I should continue to introduce myself. I am married to one wife for now. I'm still negotiating with my wife, see if there's a possibility for another one, but I don't see the chances for that. So yeah, one, and we've got 3 kids, and we live in Johannesburg in South Africa. And I believe that the rest of the world is my home. And wherever I'm welcome, I'm happy to live there if I can make a contribution. I don't believe in borders. I think they're one of the biggest existing promoted apartheid systems globally. Borders and visas and travel bans, and yeah, I can go on. Human beings don't need that. Viruses show us that you don't need that. So I'll leave that at that. So, Dr. Syed, can I proceed and share my slides now?
Yes, please. Thank you, Dumi. Yeah.
Thank you, and thank you very much. Please feel free to come in anytime, and let's have a conversation on this together. So I'm going to share my screen. Just bear with me on that. Just tell me that it's visible. People can see it.
Yes, it is visible. Yeah.
All right. Feel free to follow me on Twitter there at Coach Dumi1, the number, the digit 1, at Coach Dumi1. Let's follow each other. I was on radio this morning talking about poverty and human behavior when people get into some money on that. So you find that stream is the thread that's still alive on that. So I do tweet a lot about coaching and Ubuntu Coaching now and then. So Ubuntu Coaching, simplifying human connection in a digital world. Really, the inspiration for this is to say that as a coach working around the world, doing a lot of work now in team coaching, being part of the WBEX and Global Team Coaching Institute's faculty, working on promoting, supporting the development of the next phase of the coaching profession's development, which is team coaching. It's been a privilege to be part of that journey, and thanks to WBEX and the team there, and to the leaders of the Global Team Coaching Institute, Prof. Peter Hawkins and Prof. David Clutterbuck, that have brought us in to work on that. And thank you. I know that Dr. Syed, you're involved in that, and many of the coaches that are here who know a bit about that. If you want to grow as a coach, you got to look at team coaching, and Ubuntu Coaching starts to lay the foundation for that, because it is systems thinking. When you think Ubuntu, think systems, because it is systems thinking from a coaching point of view. So I'm going to share some tips on what Ubuntu is, what Ubuntu Coaching is. I'm going to describe that. It's and I do need to say this here, Dr. Syed, that some of the stuff I took out from sharing here, because Dr. Syed knows about why I took it out, because currently in the process of writing it. It's in a manuscript, in a book that's going to be published possibly this year. So I'm going to sneak in some of the stuff from the book. Just don't tell anybody about it. So my editor is not listening. And then just to go on from here, what is a greeting? I'm going to open up here. I know we have quite a large number of people, but I want to hear what people think about those 2 questions. First, why do we greet? Why do you think we greet? I just shared with you my greeting in my language, isiZulu, is sawubona, which means I see you. but I'm asking, then I go on to ask how you are and how everyone is. But when I ask you that question, it's meant to initiate contact with you. But when I see you and all that you represent, your people, your cats and dogs and your ancestors. I'm seeing you as you are. That's what my greeting is. So anyone who can open their mics, Dr. Syed, and share thoughts around why we greet and then how we greet. Those two questions. Don't open your mic if you're answering only one. Both questions. Why do we greet? And how do you do it? Quick one on that.
I think we greet for connection. And when I greet people, I want to look them in the eye and see them.
That is just perfect, Veronica. That's what it is. We greet to establish a connection. And when we greet authentically, we open a highway of channels into the other person's soul when we really mean it. Thank you, Veronica. Anyone else? No one from Japan or China here who don't shake hands, but bow? Or others who kiss on either side of the cheek? I never got that though. Like, is it one or two times on either side of the cheek? But the point
well, in India,
yeah, go ahead. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, well, in India, we fold our hands and say namaste to each other. Pretty much, one aspect of it is to give respect to the other person, and
go ahead.
And respect the other person as a whole person. You only don't respect the person from physical standpoint, but body, mind, heart, and soul from all the four aspects.
Awesome. Oh, that is, yeah. Please put that, because your line was breaking, put it in the chat, and let's share our thoughts and reflections on why we greet and how we greet in the chat, if that's okay, Dr. Syed. Yeah. All right. I'm going to move along so that we have more time to engage at the end of it. Right. So, greetings. So, greeting is a simple yet one of the most powerful acts of connecting, not just to yourself, because when you greet someone, you're putting yourself in a vulnerable position of seeking to engage and connect with them. So when I say sawubona, which means hello, I'm saying, I'm in fact inviting you to see me too in that process. When I put my hand forward to say, shake my hand. Well, with COVID, we don't do that. Put your elbow, but I'm seeking a connection with you, where you are, how you are, and it's a vulnerable position. So I'm putting myself at your mercy in a way. So I see you and all that you are and all that you represent in that moment of encounter. And it's the establishment, as Veronica said, of connection, which is a profound thing to do with anybody. In coaching, one-on-one coaching, we call that rapport building. Now, in team coaching, you start to see the team and get to know the team as it is. Very, very important. It's not one person you're encountering and seeing and getting to build rapport with. It's a different way of building rapport, getting to know the team. Because now you got to have multiple lenses. Hence, team coaching works especially better when you have a co-coach. And you have more eyes, more ears in the room to engage with the team. So I recognize myself in you, and we are each other's mirrors. Very important to understand that and respect that we support each other to see each other respectively as clearly as we can. Oh, there you are. I think you were checking my slides. You must have hacked into my slide. You mentioned namaste, the speaker who spoke last on that. Yes, from India. Thank you. Namaste. Say, my soul honors your soul. I honor the place in you where the entire universe resides. And I honor the light, love, truth, beauty, and peace within you, because it is also within me. And in sharing these things, we are united, we are the same, we are one. Humanity is one, and humanity must be in one with all other beings. We love to separate. Human beings love that, they thrive on that, and that's a limitation. So what Ubuntu does, it brings us back home. It's a reminder of the fact that we need to come back home. Home to seeing each other as on the same side to start with, but as extensions of each other, if you want to really be profound with this, because it is that we are connected. And then the next thing that I'm going to cover is just getting back to grips with the concept of Ubuntu. Ubuntu means I am because we are. I could say it means I am because you are. And it makes more sense when I say I am because we are. And it is the sum total of all moral, human or humane with an E values. And what this means, if I come back to I am because we are, and you will see how it links up with coaching. The whole sacredness around the concept of Ubuntu coaching and the concept of coaching and the practice of coaching, the whole philosophy behind it. The reason why many of us believe that it is sacred is because, think of it this way, you have the privilege of listening to some of the profound thinking, fears, anxieties, desires, aspirations, and visions of another human, of a fellow human, or a group of fellow humans in a team. How sacred is that? And many coaches know the value and importance of that. When someone in a confidential space, well-created, sacred container called coaching space or coaching session, they download everything about themselves in a coaching session. How can that not be sacred? It's almost like you're listening to that person's heart, their heartbeat. Very important. Coaching is sacred. Hence, when we say coach from an wearing Ubuntu lenses, we're saying understand that when you say I am because we are, you know that when your coach succeeds, when your team succeeds, and the organization you're coaching in achieves its goals, it's for the greater good. The Western world generally thrived, and I'm saying it in past tense because it's changing, on the individual, focused on the individual, me, myself, and I. And hence performance management systems still emphasize individual scorecard. Well, that has to change. It's changing very fast. Got to focus on the collective, the collaborative nature of individuals, and put more weighting into that, because that speaks to our ability to connect with each other and achieve greater goals in collaboration with others. And that is best illustrated or demonstrated or modeled when we work with Ubuntu. Ubuntu gives expression to that greater need to be part of something greater than ourselves. So when I say I am because we are, I cannot be fully me if you cannot be fully you. If in my organization, something happens that constrains you from expressing your full gifts and talents or skills that you bring, then we are not living up to the values of being humane, of living with Ubuntu. What Ubuntu coaching does, it gives expression, it helps all employees or leaders that are coached or managers give expression to that, create spaces where everybody can be fully, wholly who they are supposed to be, who they are designed to be, whether whoever you believe in as your deity, your higher being, they created you, or you're created with those gifts. Ubuntu coaching enables you to unleash those talents and gifts that you were given, that were put only in you, in your workplace, in your community, in your life, in your organization, or in your part of the world. And we owe it to each other When we work with Ubuntu lenses, we owe it to each other to create spaces where we can fully be wholly who we were created to be. And this is the essence of Ubuntu. And then Ubuntu coaching is the tools and tips and mechanics to express that. That's the other part that I was told not to go too much into on talking about Ubuntu coaching, because that's in the book. So coming to that, understanding Ubuntu, which is a language in Egyptian language, Mat, it is understood to be the original African Egyptian, and I read this in books, and some of my friends in Egypt will say, some of that to me is not exactly, but yeah, I'm happy to receive comments and corrections on the meanings of that. So Mat, it has been described as that divine microchip in our hearts that tells us what is right or wrong. Everybody knows that. You know when you do something wrong, you know when you do something right. Always feels good, and not right doesn't feel good. So what is that divine microchip that tells you that? And how do you keep it sharp and primed and ready to pick up on the signals when you're being persuaded to do something wrong or right? And it guides us through life in accordance with the divine will, whichever way you describe that. And the rest of that is just the story of it. And you can find a lot of this if you look at Hermetic philosophy and science. You find a lot of data on that. There's a whole lot of stories and theories about where this comes from. And there are 41 rules of what is called the supreme goodness of Ubuntu or Mat that have been started, that go to the earliest writings about human beings that show that this has been there from the beginning as a guide to what it is to be human. And there are many theories you can have to counter this, or different arguments, because history is a story of whoever wrote it. And a lot of what we think we know about humanity and human beings, story for another day, is dependent on whoever wrote it. So I always say history is unpredictable, because whoever writes it or rewrites it can tell it differently. So don't believe what is called history, because it's his or her story. So let's understand one thing with Ubuntu. It is the divine order of creation, of society and of nature, just how that ordering is. Right now, many of us, we are hiding from a microbe that you cannot even see. What does that mean? You can have nuclear weapons and blow everyone up, but you die from a microbe that you can't even see. It's a natural thing. So we need to understand that we are not as special as human beings as we think we are. And we're not as all-conquering as we think we are. We're special, yeah, sure, to a certain point. So Ubuntu is justice, truth, righteousness, collective accountability, and harmony in action as lived consistently. So when you treat the person you do not know exactly the same way you would treat someone that you know very well, you're living with Ubuntu values. And I always say to many of my students when we talk about this, Ubuntu is omnipresent, irrespective of ethnicity or geography. It's a global phenomenon. It's anywhere where you will find human beings, you will find Ubuntu. It will be called different words and different names. And that's okay. So Ubuntu is a part of humanity, it's part of who we are. But Ubuntu coaching, the practice of living with it consistently, is where the work needs to be done. And this is why we teach Ubuntu coaching, or practice Ubuntu coaching, because that is teaching leaders to stay attuned to their Ubuntu humaneness, lenses of looking at themselves and those they work with from an Ubuntu perspective. Leaving that, knowing that when I greet and connect and meet someone, where I meet them, they have greatness within them. And it is my job and my duty as a coach, as a manager, as a leader, as a human being, as a fellow human being, to create space for that person or that team, that organization, to fully express the brilliant gifts and the greatness that sits within them, that they bring to that space, shared space. Very important not to forget that. So, interesting image. Who is teaching your children about being humane or human? Someone is on the internet, on some page somewhere. You think they're playing a game, they're chatting to some older person somewhere, and they're being influenced to do something. One of the biggest threats to many of us that have daughters is human trafficking. It is not just females, by the way. So, but I digress. We need to, it's the responsibility of everybody. In African wisdom, we say the village raises the child. Well, the village just got bigger. It's the rest of the world now with the internet. So we need to be conscious of that. If the wise elders of the village don't teach the children, the village idiots will certainly do, because they are always busy. They don't stop, they don't sleep. They will teach your children to hate themselves and to hate you, or to do damage. And they can teach them anything, really. And this is very important in coaching, because coaching is about, it's about really unleashing the brilliance of individuals and teams. But how do you know that you have that brilliance, or that your team has that brilliance? How do you know? That's a question that I would like us to ask each other and ourselves. Right. Are humans wired to connect? Is it natural for us to seek to be in connection with others? Dr. Syed, I don't see you, but I know you're there. I want to hear from some of you. Anyone who wants to come in and share this, or reflect on some of the things that I've covered before in the definition of Ubuntu and coming back to Ubuntu coaching. Are humans wired to connect? Because this is what I'm talking about. Who wants to come in and say something on that? Unmute and speak.
They say that human being is a social animal.
Yes. Human beings are social animals. What does that mean, Johnny?
They have a connection. They have a need to connect, and they have a need to be belonging to a group or a society or a culture.
Yeah, but dolphins have the same thing, and whales, and I think sharks are the only ones that mainly in the sea. Elephants, I've seen many elephants, lions, even that's animals have that too, and even birds. So nothing unique about human beings if they're social. But are we wired to connect, Johnny?
I think so. I mean,
okay. Yeah. Anyone else? Vera?
I'm just thinking of John Donne, whoever said, no man is an island. And I think that is because you cannot live in isolation. I mean, we're all living in isolation to degrees at the moment, but
yeah,
you cannot live absolutely in isolation with no connection to anybody else. And I think that when you are forced into isolation, this is the struggle people have, the lack of connection. So
yeah.
it's a natural instinct. And as you say, we are part of a whole system. You cannot
Absolutely.
be not part of the system. So I think we are wired to connect.
Absolutely. Thank you, Johnny and Veronica. Yeah, if we had time, I'd show you a video on just the neuroscience of connection that we know is there. Just a description of that. I'll send the link to Soham, and then you can send it to everyone that attended today. Just the description of the fact that we are. Oh, Sherihan, yeah, go ahead if you wanted to say something.
Yes, hi everyone. Firstly, I think that humans aren't wired to connect. Uh, I think they are social creatures, but people connect when they want to. But there is someone else that don't want to connect, so he will be alone. That's my thought about this issue. Thanks.
Yeah, that is brilliant. Thank you very much for that, Okasha. We are wired to connect. Thank you for that, Saima, and then we'll move on. Thank you.
Um, I think that we all are connected to each other. Our neurons are connected. Our energy is connected.
Yeah,
And because of that, we interact and it becomes bigger and bigger. That is our innate need to
beautiful.
be connected.
I love that you mentioned neurons, because that is what it's about. We are connected right here. Someone can say something there, and you will feel goosebumps. But you're sitting there somewhere, thousands of miles away. What is going on there? What is with that? Saima, you're touching on a very, very important point. So I'll mention it, just cover it in one of the slides, in that the neuroscience of it. So thank you very much for that, Saima. Beautiful. Sharad?
Yeah, I think one thing which is quite important is we live in, I mean, by default, we don't live in independent environment. We live in an interdependent environment. And when we are interdependent on each other, we can't live in silos. By default, we have to connect. So whether
Yeah, it's a poor connection, Sharad. I didn't get much of that, but thank you for your contribution on that. Amal, you wanted to say something? Unmute? Yeah.
I do. I recall a story, actually, a video that I watched during my college time. Now, probably I don't have the scientific response that you'd look for, but I'll say the story, and I'll answer the question whether the human beings are wired to connect or not. I recall a video that I watched where it was somewhere in a metro station in China. And then I think everybody was walking and busy to catch the train. And then this lady had a relative, a father. I cannot recall what exactly was the relative. And then he just dropped, and there was some things that's happening. And she was calling people to come and say, please, please, I'll lose him. He's dying. And then there was this doctor who was in just still studying, but he recalled and he just responded because it's in their culture is not to come nearby a stranger. But this doctor, who was still in practice, was wired to connect with her in terms of emotion and feelings. And he is right away, despite the fact he's not a doctor yet and still studying, he still recalled from theory how to fix this relative of hers. So in your unconscious, and you're somewhere, you respond. So yes, we are more than just animals, I would say. We are far more intelligent than that in our subconscious. So yeah, thank
Absolutely.
you.
Beautiful, Amal. Thank you. And we have been taught and programmed, conditioned to separate ourselves from even ourselves and from others. And
Agreed.
learning now is for us to remember that we are, as Johnny said, social beings, and Veronica was saying, we are interconnected human beings. And I really love what Simon said around the neuroscience of it, because scientists have started it for decades, and they've found that we are inherently interconnected. So you're right, Amal, and that video shows exactly that. And there are many others of humans and animals that show that when we're in trouble, when others are in trouble, we respond. There is a visceral, there is a natural inclination or response to support others in distress or in trouble. And that is a human thing, but apparently
Correct.
it's in every other living being. It's there somewhere. So it's fascinating that human beings have to be reminded of who they really are. And that's the funny part about us human beings. We think we're so clever, but we have a lot to learn, unlearn, and relearn, as Alvin Toffler says. So thank you. Thanks again, Amal. I'm going to move on.
Yeah, thank you.
So our human beings wired to connect? The answer is a resounding yes, they are. And here is an illustration of some of it, the spider web thing that we use in teaching some of our students in some of the programs I'm involved in. So those of you that know, that study spiders and others, will tell you that when there are different development phases or stages of these spider webs, starting at the bottom right, it's not fully developed, and then top left, it's more developed, and then top right is far more developed. If a leaf of a seed of a plant drops at one corner of the spider web, the spider knows that it's not something that's organic, alive, that it's meant to trap, that it needs to jump on it and eat it. And if a fly or something that it likes to snack on or eat gets caught in the web, in the furthest corner of the web, it knows that that's food. How does it know that? We're like that, human beings, because there's vibration in life. Living beings vibrate. But that's topic for another day. And I'm sure many of you as coaches and scientists and behavioral scientists, psychologists, you know that about this phenomenon of energy. Like we say, we connect at different levels of intelligence that we may not even be consciously aware of. But the point here is any activity in any part of the human web, it will sooner or later be felt in every other part of the human life. We know that. Yeah, others will say the COVID-19 started in Wuhan in China, but now I'm sitting in Johannesburg in my house and I'm not going anywhere. It's kind of grounded me far away from China, and it's impacted every corner of the world. And so anything that happens anywhere where human beings are concerned, are involved, will inevitably impact others. So the invitation for us here, talking about Ubuntu, is recognizing that how I show up in my privacy, in my own space, has major implications for others, because I'm reinforcing certain behaviors, certain thinking, certain patterns that will shape how I show up in my world, and therefore impact others that I meet and encounter, even virtually, online, like we're doing right now, because everything is connected. And we do not need a small virus or microbe to remind us of that. But it has reminded us of that, even if it has had to put us in an unlimited time of being grounded. And it's fascinating to note that whenever we see a human need, we are biologically wired to respond to it. It doesn't matter what culture or religion or background you are from. If you see a child, if someone brings a child into your space where you are right now, and that baby starts smiling or laughing or giggling, goo goo gaga, you can't maintain a stone-faced facial expression looking at that baby unless you're teasing and playing with the baby. What is that? It's just who we are. Why are you smiling, Veronica? It's the image of the baby, right? So it's natural to who we are. So very important for us to understand that we are biologically wired to each other. And when it comes to that, what Ubuntu does, it reminds us of that and equips us with skills and tools to do that, starting with Sawubona, with that greeting of I see you as you are, and not as some anthropologist or historian or journalist has described you, but as you present yourself. And this is what the world needs now, to stop describing and defining other people and let them present themselves as they show up, as they are to you, and not stand there as the master of being able to define others because you can. It's not your place. We need to know that. We honor others as they are when we step back and get out of the way and let them show us who they are. and shut down the messaging and stories that we've been told about who they are. And this essentially is what coaching is about. You listen more than you speak in coaching. I'll say that again. You listen more than you speak, and you have to hear more than is said by words in coaching. And this is why essentially coaching works best when face-to-face. Well, now we have to rely on the quality of your camera and how much you see. You're just seeing that. You don't see much in that, but we've got to make do with what we've got. Very, very important for us to understand that. And just to move it along, yes, wired to connect. But we have programmed ourselves over time to block and label as weak or our inherent natural response to care or to connect with others. So the global need is for us to, this is drawn again, inspired by Alvin Toffler's quotation. So the need is for us to learn, unlearn, relearn, and then reconnect with our natural capacity to genuinely care or genuinely connect to others. Connecting is caring, actually. Caring for yourself and caring for the other that you're connecting with. What Ubuntu Coaching does is honor the space in between as sacred ground for connection. When you're in a coaching session, an Ubuntu coaching session, it's sacred. You should see Nobantu Mpotilo, my sister Nobantu, who's done an incredible job building the whole concept on Ubuntu Coaching, and she does that with WBEX and on other platforms, demonstrating just that presence of being an Ubuntu coach. You should look out for her work and their demo videos online for that. Very important to learn that you are of service to others more than you are of service to yourself. That's what Ubuntu does say. And when you open up the space for others to express themselves, you are also in service of yourself in that. And then unlearning ways that separate us from ourselves and from each other. Then relearning ways that help us connect with each other naturally, authentically. The reconnection is the essence of that, and this is the expression of the humaneness that sits within each and every one of us. So, to touch on a number of things here, I'm going to end very quickly because I want us to get to a point where we engage and discuss. So, human beings we cannot allow civilization, and that's me preaching now, yeah, to do all that. So, but yeah, the gap between individual experience, group experience, and global consciousness. That's the rest of the story around that. Something I want to end with here. The coaches that will succeed and help transform our organizations and our world from here on, Dr. Syed and the team there, are those coaches that have what Prof. Peter Hawkins called wide-angled empathy. What does that mean? It means that you're able, as a coach, whatever background training you are, whether it's neuroscience, emotional intelligence, whether it's neuro-linguistic programming, whether it's integral, whether you base a lot of your work on, whatever it is, very important to understand one thing. You need to develop a wide-angled lens on your empathy for yourself, the next person, the team you work with, the organizations that you work with, your stakeholders and partners, the society you live in, and the global geographical region and the rest of the world. Widen and broaden your angle for empathy. Wide-angled empathy means that we stop as coaches asking the question, what would you like to work on today? If it includes others, yes. But what is your goal for coaching? What are your coaching topics? What is your goal? Individual focused questions that help people reinforce their individuality are less attractive into the future than those that that asks the coach, how will this serve you and your stakeholders and the greater good? How does this become a collective effort going forward? What Ubuntu Coaching does, it opens up a channel for us to develop and to grow and become members of a broader society that is in service of the greater good. It's when we limit that with individual focus that we take away from the profession of coaching and we take it backwards. The future of coaching is in the collective space. It's in the shared space. It's in the Ubuntu fueled space where I am because you are. I am because we are. Because together we are more. Individually, we are less. My job as a coach and as an Ubuntu coach is to create space for you to be the best version of yourself in service of the greater good. If my work is only to help you be better than you were yesterday in the service of only yourself, then my task is limited. But if my work with you as a coach, a coachee or client, or as a team and organization is to help you refine and become aware of how you can do more for the greater good, then I'm doing a very decent job indeed, because we are greater together. Thank you. So finally, I said I'm going to end with this. I'm not going to come to this other one. Dr. Syed, I want to end with this here and then open up, because we need to have a dialogue than a talking head. What science and art got to do with this? Well, everything. The science of Ubuntu part, neuroscience studies that have repeatedly shown that humans are relational beings, what Johnny was saying earlier and Veronica, and they thrive in social interactions and positive connections. That's the science part. And there's work of many other people that show that actually we are wired like that. And neuroscience studies have shown exactly how this is happening. And I'm not going to spend time on that here. And the art of part of Ubuntu is really about who we are and how we show up. And I had one conversation with someone in one university in Cape Town, Stellenbosch University, where one student said, the art part, we're talking about the art and science of human connection. The art part is in the ancient rock paintings of the sun, the co-sun, or so-called, sometimes the term, it's not a well-liked term, the Bushman, but the sun, about that, how they put timeless paintings that show life then on rocks in paint that has defied thousands of years. And that's the art of human connection, that now we're connected to the way life was then. But we got not to look further and look just now, before technology, what was life like? We couldn't be doing what we're doing now, let alone with the smartphone and the days of the landline as the only form of connection, or before that, sending a telegram, or way before that. So humanity has evolved, and the science and the art part of it is really one and the same. It's connected. Our history is a collection of stories about connection and disconnection. So we need to understand that we've come so far and we can go further, not by separating ourselves from each other, but from connecting ourselves and the so-called other, which is an extension of us. Right. I thought I would end with this one, Dr. Syed.
Thank you, Dumi. Dumi, would you also like to share some resources with our listeners today to read more book or article or blog to further?
There is a whole lot that I can share in that. I have a number of books. In fact, one book that if you want to read more about this, there's this book, you can take a picture of it. It's by it's edited by Dr. Sunny Stout Rostron, one of the well-renowned coaches. People need to see that, take a picture of it. And I can send the details to Soham and the team. It's a transformational coaching to lead culturally diverse teams. And I wrote a chapter in there, and the chapter of the book, I hope you can see that. Is it visible? If people can see that.
The case for Ubuntu Coaching.
Yeah. The case for Ubuntu Coaching, working with an African coaching meta model that strengthens human connection in a fast-changing VUCA world. And this has led to quite a lot of other work to do more of that. And hence now I'm writing a whole book on it, which really captures the essence of what Ubuntu is, what Ubuntu Coaching is, and why we need that more now in the digital age. And I've had to delay that with lockdown and then include something around the 4th and the 5th industrial revolution into the book. So, and yes, I've delayed it so long. My editor says you'll never publish it if you want to include everything else, because things are changing so fast. So yes, I'll share more resources. I think what I will do, I'll check the slides, check out what they don't need me to share, and then I'll send the slides to you, and then you send them to the slides to everybody. I'll include a slide with the resources, with the reference list and the bibliography, what people can do to read more on that. There's a whole book on this. This is a book on Ubuntu, which is written by Mfuniselo John Bango. It's brilliant it's called The Global Philosophy for Humankind. It's a full book on what humanity can do to become better. We need to, a good friend of mine always says, we need to do human better. In other words, this thing of being a human being, we can improve on it and not just live like we are doing day to day. We got to do this better. And then finally, this is another book called The African Economic Humanism. It's a book that describes how the world can be a better world without the petrodollar, if you want to say that. I'm talking to people whose economies depend on oil and talk about petrodollar. Yeah, but the point of it is there are more ways to do global commerce and to do organizational development, to do human interactions, human interconnectedness better than we've been doing. We can do better as human beings. It's not one way, one size fits all way of doing it. We can do better. And we've seen that it's doable. COVID has taught us that anything is possible.
Absolutely.
Questions, comments?
Dumi, people are asking for the book's names. Maybe you can send it to me on email, and we will publish on our webinar notes that we publish under your profile after the webinar is over. So we'll publish it there.
Right. I will send all of them and more, the reference list that people can have a look to read on. But if you just Google, I think the one that has to do with coaching that they're interested in. If anyone interested in this one, Dr. Sunny Stout Rostron. If you Google her, Sunny Stout Rostron, you'll be able to find her book. And this book, you can order it, I think, online, and you'll be able to find it. It's one of the. It was published in early 2019, so it's over a year now. Yeah.
Thank you, Dumi. I think this is really about going back to who we are and how should we see the world. While we are trying to speed up everything and move forward and do a lot of things together, but I think we need to see how do we become together. Listeners, do you have questions for Dumi before we ask him for a parting advice for people?
Can I speak?
No.
Okay, so Dumi, thank you so much. This was really so powerful for me.
And I just have two things that I'm taking away from this. The one thing is that coaching is more art than science. And I see this this canvas with lots of color and it's also messy. It's also messy before it actually becomes a picture. And the other thing that the Ubuntu has I think explained, I've always believed this, but I've got a way to explain it now, is coaching for me is the only peer-to-peer profession. So there's no specialist sharing information with somebody who knows less. And as long as I don't have an agenda when I coach, it sets me free and it sets my client free to be the whole person that they are and to develop that way. And the way that I've always explained it is, if I don't have an agenda, I give them the ocean to swim in with all the coral and the beautiful you know, fish life and everything. And if I do have an agenda, they only have an Olympic pool. So thank you very much. This was really, really wonderful for me.
I love that. Thank you, Anne-Marie. And I love what you're saying. Coaching agenda, more of an art than a science. Coaching, yeah, coaching can be that and more. And Anne-Marie, coaches always have an agenda. If your agenda is to invoice at the end of that, it's the wrong agenda. If your agenda is to be present as someone does their sacred work, whatever that is, then that's your only agenda right there.
Absolutely.
So yeah, beautiful, Anne-Marie. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dumi, I think Sherihan has raised hand, and Sherihan, would you like to ask a question here?
Yes, I have one question about this session. I just want to ask about Ubuntu Coaching. I think that Ubuntu represents us, values, ethics, how to communicate more in our society. But I think that coaching do also. Yes, clients come to the coach and open his mind, his emotions, and tell the coach what he thinks, he feels. And there is ethics too in coaching. What Ubuntu Coaching provide us more than issues. I don't know. Can the coach tell us more about this?
Dr. Syed, you want to recap on that? I didn't pick up everything. It's around values, ethics, Ubuntu Coaching. Sherihan, are you saying it's the same? Did I hear you right? I just want to make sure I get the question right.
Well, not really clear, Sherihan.
Yes, I so I don't know what Ubuntu specifically provide us more than coaching is already do.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dumi, okay, over to you. Maybe you got the question this time.
Yeah, I'm going to try and cover what I heard. Thank you, Sherihan. Sorry, the line is not very strong there. It was breaking. Ubuntu Coaching, values, ethics, and then the coaching part, how as coaches we can be in that. And for me, this is Ubuntu Coaching gives expression to ethical leadership, ethical human behavior, and the values that we have when you coach with it, when it's about being consistent in that. And the difference with that is that there is the intent behind, and you're grounded in that. It's as if this is your first nature. Ubuntu becomes how you are, and it's not a hat you put on and can take off. Like, I don't say I'm a coach now, I'm not a coach an hour from now, unless I'm doing something in that specifically articulate that. What Ubuntu Coaching does, it equips us in a way that can make us functionally, practically able to create that space for others to express themselves. And part of leadership values or management values, human values and ethics in general, that can be expressed in that. You don't have to separate that from those other things, but Ubuntu gives it a nuanced, let's call it a refined way of expression in being and in practice. And that's the difference in that. And I've got a whole chapter that explains that, in fact. What is the difference between Ubuntu or ways of being humane and anything else that promotes value-based leadership, authentic leadership, anything about that? Because it's saying, I am because we are. Mm-hmm. And that's what ethical leadership is about. Values-based leadership is about that. But what Ubuntu does, it takes it into it refines it in action and in steps that you can take. And when you coach from an Ubuntu perspective, there are specific steps in doing that, that this is what you do. Starting with that connection, the first connection with another, which is the greeting. And I was talking to someone recently about how people greet online, like in meetings like this one, how we greet. And ideally, if we're in a conference room, all of us in a conference room, all 70 or so, it will be a different way you start a meeting than you started, Dr. Sayed. It would be totally different. So what is missing when we're on the digital platforms? The greeting gets changed. I'm hesitant to say diluted because it's different. It gets changed and it's different. And it's about, that is what it's about, Sherahan. It's about understanding that these are the same things in the same pattern about improving, enhancing, refining human behavior to be in the service of the greater good, because that's what the world needs now, service. And coaching is a service profession, essentially. And values and ethics support that.
Yes, thanks a lot. But I'll ask you one more question and fine, and it will be the last. Okay. We need ethics. We need values, as you told us. Really, I agree with you. But there's main value that the world are agree with this, but there are subtitles of values and ethics that will be different in the different societies. So if there is a guidance book of Ubuntu coaching that will lead us in this kind of coaching, if we choose to work for, because there are some values in our society. Okay, with you.
Yeah, missed that last part, Sherahan. If I can quickly respond to what I heard in that, is that it's a big yes, yes, yes. We need all of them. And what we do with Ubuntu Coaching, we give practical tools and tips on how to give expression to this on a regular and daily basis, and then to model it in how leaders show up openly in that. The world we live in and the world that has been promoted and supported as the best one in that promotes the individual over everything or everyone else. And where we need to come back home to is understanding that we're together in this. And like I said, we've had to listen to a microorganism, a virus, to remind us that if you only give medicines to people in other part of the world, who knows, this thing will mutate and then your vaccine won't work anymore. We've got to come together and work together on this as human beings. But even now, we're not learning because we're not listening to that. But yeah, Great questions, Sharohan. Thank you. And I'm glad it's your last one because I was struggling to hear that. It's
Thanks.
okay.
Thanks.
Just playing. Thank you.
Thank you, Dumi. I think we are already over our time today.
Oh.
Such an interesting session. I think listeners, if you have questions for Dumi, please feel free to write to us or reach out to him on his Twitter handle, and you can probably take it further from there. And we will also share a LinkedIn link for connecting with Dumi, and you can take this conversation further from there. Thank you once again, everyone, for joining us today, and special thanks to Dumi. Appreciations for you. Thank you, Dumi. And see everyone next Tuesday. Goodbye for now. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Dr. Syed. Thank you, everyone. Stay safe.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.